Guys, it's Blake and today I'm going to be doing a guitar lesson for the Maine's new song, Numb Without You, which is going to be off of their new album, You Are Okay. This is a pretty simple song on guitar, at least. There's a lot of other stuff going around, but in total there are only really 4 different guitar parts and they're really quite simple, so let's jump into it. This song is going to be in standard tuning, so you really don't have to change too much with your guitar. And there are 2 sections in this. One is clean, one is overdriven, and one is distorted, kinda. So we're going to go over the tone for both of those right now. So for guitar, I'm using a Fender Strat with a humbucker in the bridge and single coils in the 2 other slots. You can pretty much use whatever for this song. The guitar part is pretty jangly, it's not too thick, so you don't have to worry about that. But I'm personally going to be in the second position, which is the humbucker and the middle single coil. So for the overdriven parts, I'm just going straight into an amp that has a kind of crunchy channel to it, so without any effects, it sounds like this. And so that's fine, you could leave it at that, but I like to add a little top end to a lot of my guitar parts. So I'm just kicking on. Now I can use Tomb Screamer, which will add just a little hump in the mids, which will bring out a lot of the brightness in the tone. So with that, it sounds like this. Okay, so let's go over what I'm using for the clean tone of the song. Again, Fender Strat. But this time I'm going to move up to using the middle and neck pickups combined. So it's going to sound like this. That's clean, so to just match the tone of the song, I'm going to add in a little bit of reverb first. And this is just a basic room setting, nothing too fancy going on with this one. Besides that, a little delay. And just to finish things out, a small amount of chord. So with that in mind, let's jump into the first part, which is the chorus. So this song is in the key of F, so we're just going to be using basically power chords throughout it. So the chorus progression is C, E, A, F, then G. It's going to be all power chords, and so it's going to sound like this. That's the first part of the chorus, and this is going to be the second one. So both those parts repeat twice later in the song. So let's go over the first pass of that. So we're going to play 8 eighth notes on a C power chord, which is just 3rd fret, 5th fret, 5th fret. It's going to sound like this. And so for the next bar, it's going to split between the E power chord and the A power chord. So we're going to strum the E power chord 3 times, and then switch over to that A power chord for 5 times. So it'll sound like this slow. And then after that, you're going to want to jump into a F power chord, and you're going to again strum that 8 times. And then you're going to just slide up 2 frets to a G power chord and do the same exact thing. Put that all together slow, it'll sound like this. Pretty simple, let's move on to the second part of the chorus. So the only thing that's going to change is you're going to take that rhythmic pattern from that E to A and add it onto the C, and you're going to go up to G. So it's going to be 3 hits on the C, and then you're going to jump up to the G for 5 in that first measure. So it's going to sound like this. So slow, it's going to sound like this put together, and that's for the whole second pass. Okay, so let's move on to the second verse, which is probably the easiest part you'll learn in the song. It's going to be just 2 notes, 1 strum, constant throughout the verse. So you're going to want to put your index finger barred over to the 5th fret, and specifically the strings you're going to be playing are the 5th and the 4th. And you're going to want to use the rest of your fingers to mute the rest of the strings, because you're going to want to strum through these strings to really get a nice percussive effect. So this is what the part will sound like up to speed. I'm going ahead and when I come down, I'm muting the strings with the side of my palm, and then when I come back up, I'm muting the strings with my left hand using my rogue finger. So it's a very simple thing to get down. You just got to get that mute and accentuate that note in the picking pattern. So you want to kind of dig in on those upstrokes, which is going to help you stay in time as well. So the next part of the song is going to be the bridge, and for this one it's going to be completely clean guitar, and it's again just going to be strummed chords. So it's a little bit different, a little more complex than the power chords we were using before. So the progression basically goes D, C, E, and then G, but they're a little different. The first one's a D minor, so to form this chord up, we're going to go with our first finger on the 5th fret of the A string, our 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the G string, and then our middle finger on the 6th fret of the B string. So that's going to sound like this. And so this chord is just going to be strummed out all 8 notes again. And so for our next chord, we're going to shift down to the C, and this one's even easier because we're going to have our first finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, our ring finger on the 5th fret of the G, and our pinky on the 5th fret of the B string. So it's basically like a power chord, we're just moving those 2 fingers down a string. So again, strum through it, it's going to sound like this. And this pass, again, it's just going to be straight 8th notes, so it's going to sound like this. Our 3rd chord is going to be easy. I just play this using straight E power chord. So as we described earlier, pretty simple, same thing, 8th notes again. And then our last chord is going to be a G. I play this way. There's tons of other ways to do it, but to get the same effect, but this is the way I like to do it. I think it's the most easy way to do. I use my ring finger on the 5th fret of my A string, my pinky on the 3rd string on the 5th fret. We're going to leave our G string open. We're going to want that to ring out, and then I'm going to use my index finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. So this chord strummed out sounds like this. And again, we're going to play through it, straight 8th notes again. So to put it all together and play through it, it's going to sound like this. For the bridge part of the song. So next we're going to jump into the solo, which is probably the hardest part of this song. So here's what it's going to sound like up to speed. And that's going to repeat around twice. So let's jump into this and take it slow. So the solo leads in with just this picked pattern that really builds up the tension for that solo to really have its effect. You're just going to want to slide into the 9th fret in the G string and play that just straight as quarter notes with some vibrato like this. You're going to want to slide out of it right before that solo hits, and then you're going to do the same thing and slide back into the 9th fret and bounce it off the 8th fret on the B string. And you're going to want to jump between those 2 notes, and it's going to sound like this. So after you have that little section down, you're going to want to do the same exact thing rhythmically, but instead of going to the 8th fret on the B string, in its place you're going to want to bounce it off the 7th fret on the G string. And again, it's going to be the same exact rhythm, you're just going to switch that kind of introductory note. So up to this point it'll sound like this. And so on the last note in this little phrase, you're going to want to bend the 9th fret up to the 10th and release. So that bend will sound like this. And so to put all those little pieces together, it's going to sound like this as slow as possible. For the next part of the solo, we're going to jump down to the 7th fret on the D string, and we're going to play that twice. And so the pattern we're going to go here is 2 hits on the 7th, and then we're going to jump to a different note. And so the first different note we're going to be playing is the 10th fret on the D string as well, so it's going to sound like this. And then after that, every time that little pattern repeats, it's going to be then the 7th fret on the G string, and then the 9th fret on the G string, so it's going to sound like this. So to play everything all together, here we go. And on that 9th fret, we're going to do that same little bend we did on the first pass. And then for the last part of the solo, we're going to move over to the 4th fret on the G string and do that same exact picking pattern, same exact rhythmic pattern. We're just going to move it from the 4th to the 5th to the 7th, and again, you're going to end on that bend up to the 8th fret this time. So it's still going to be a half step bend. So that little section will sound like this. So now to play it slow all the way through, it's going to sound like this. So that is pretty much it for the guitar parts in this song. There's not a lot going on. The strings make up most of this one. So I really hope you enjoyed this lesson and hope it clears some stuff up for you. And if that didn't help at all, there's a cover linked in the description below with the tabs as well, and that should take care of it for you. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.